We're with Eastern Connecticut head women's basketball coach Denise Bierly. The Warriors getting ready for the season opener this weekend in the Eastern Tip-Off Tournament. Denise, 16-player roster, 10 new players. In the preseason this year, there had to be a lot of teaching going on.
Right, yeah. No, there definitely did. I mean, I think this is probably, it reminds me back to when I first got here. For second year, had to do a lot of teaching, especially that second year, and that we had our first recruiting class in. And that's how it kind of felt this year, that we had so many new players. And then even our returners were only sophomores. We had a senior transfer that she was new to the squad. And then Jamie Summers, who hadn't played basketball since high school. So, I mean, really only Sam Riccio had any kind of, number of years of experience under her belt on how we do things. The sophomores went through it last year, but lots of teaching, lots of trying to streamline the offense to make it effective, but as I guess simplified as it could be, so they could pick it up quickly. Because you have 4 or 5 weeks for your first game, and you got 3 games in 4 days, so you have to be ready. So, but my assistants did a great job. I think that we're getting there. We've still got a few more days to go, and we're excited to start the season.
Last year was difficult because you went into the season expecting to have a veteran team. Several of your starters had to be dismissed from the team. How did that affect your coaching and your teaching?
I think the thing that I learned about myself, that I actually had more patience than I thought I did. I mean, I think at times I want the kids to, I see so much potential in them, and sometimes I have a tendency to demand it more of them, and I think my assistants have helped me over the years, Allison and Kristen Leary and Stan, and say to me, Coach, they're going to get it. One day it'll just kind of come together and you can't force it. And so then I usually have my, back off and let them do that. I think what I learned about myself and my coaching was that I had to be patient. And everything I felt from the minute that the group reconvened after the Christmas break last year and started anew, I felt was positive. I was positive. The coach, my assistants were positive. The girls on the team were positive. It just, there was no really ever need, or I didn't think there was a place for, when those kids were predominantly freshmen, being put in a situation they weren't asked to be put in, and it wasn't fair to them. And I think the positive approach definitely helped. I think we improved. I think our record wasn't. I always, when I talk to recruits this year, I'll say, our record, I'll go to say that it was awful, and I'll use that word, and I'll say, okay, our record wasn't good. But the season itself was successful because I learned a lot about the character of the women that returned for this season, and I learned a lot about my coaching staff and myself, and so in that ways, that was success. Our record was not good, but there were a lot of successes that came out of last year.
The thing that, if you watched last year's team from an outsider,
right,
the thing that it struck a person was that how fast that team put all that stuff behind them.
Right.
Like from that first day going out to Con College,
right,
this was their team, and they were not going to be a pushover for
right,
people.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of games, there was a handful of games we just weren't competitive. I mean, that they, for whatever reason, we just got either overmatched or just weren't mentally there. Just those games. I mean, they were young. But I thought most of the games were competitive, but it would get to like that 10-minute mark of the second half. Yeah. And I really was only playing, about 6 players, and then Sam Riccio tore ACL. So then it went down to 5 players. So you're really playing like 5 kids for 40 minutes, and they're young, and we'd run out of gas. And we just couldn't compete with some of the better teams, and even some of the 500 teams, it would struggle because they just would run out of gas at times. But I was so pleased with them. I know our effort up at Bowdoin, we played a really good game there. I don't even know what the final score was, but it was close at halftime and into the second half. And I know when we played Rhode Island College on the road, that was like a 4-point game at halftime, and we were in it till about 9 minutes to go, and it just, I guess once again we kind of ran out of gas. And then when those 2 out of our last 3 games we won. I mean, it was disappointing, the UMass Boston game, because the kids were very disappointed about that, not making the tournament. They had it within their reach. But beating 2 teams, especially I think Keene, some of my better teams, we've won 25 games. We'll go up to Keene and it goes to overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, and for that team to go up there and they had 5 senior starters and beat them on the road, that was probably, as a coach, one of my most satisfying wins of you don't look at it as a Final Four game or a national championship game, but just of their improvement and their heart and their stick-to-itiveness and all those things. So they definitely improved and they definitely played, like as you pointed out, as it was their team. And they never, every day at practice was, if you went in the gym, it wasn't a fun-filled atmosphere as far as goofing around. It was just, they were very focused and they were very positive. You would have never known what our record was. I think they came to go to work every day at practice, and that helped me a lot, to keep everybody kind of up from, we weren't winning. But to want to keep me up, I mean, they helped me a lot, stay up with the whole, keep wanting to teach them because they wanted to learn. So we had a lot of positives come out of last year. So.
Well, we talked about how young the team is this year, but you got 3 sophomores that aren't sophomores.
Right.
Any other year,
right,
they wouldn't get those minutes until they're junior or senior.
Right. Well, I know I've talked to Shannon McCord a little bit about it, and she's like, she'd have been subbing in for a junior and a senior, and she would have got to play, yeah, but not 40 minutes a game. The other thing that I think her and Christina Forsman had to face was they got the best defender. Like Shannon would get the best post defender, Christina would get the best guard defender. If they were playing with those upperclassmen last year, they were playing. I mean, Christina was starting, she was, but she wasn't getting the best guard defender. The junior player we had was. So I just think that in those regards, they shouldn't. Well, they'll still have to. I mean, they're only sophomores. I mean, they still have ways to go. But I think, to your point, they should be somewhat used to getting the other team's best and being, our kind of go-to players. So that shouldn't be a new role for them. To your point, they're more like juniors than sophomores in that respect. That's how I look at them. So we're just hoping that they can, I just don't want that sophomore class to put so much pressure on themselves. I have a little worry about that because everybody's saying those kind of things, and even the coaching staff, well, you're really like a junior. And that's great, but they still are, barely 20 years old, and they've got to be the leaders of this team. And that's something that are not. I mean, they were leaders last year, but, being leaders on a team that can win games with 3 minutes to go is a lot different situation. So. Well,
talk about leaders. You have 2 seniors, and one of your seniors is only in her second year,
right,
and then you got Sam, who was hurt last
right,
year. So senior leadership is always important. How important is it this year?
I mean, it's very important. I think the thing that, we had a concern coming into the season, would Sam be ready, because she had surgery pretty late in the process. But she's been playing well. I think she worries more about her foot speed than I do. I think that what she adds, all the intangibles. I mean, you'll never see Sam Riccio with a lot on her stat sheet. But I think she adds a lot of intangibles and leadership. And then Jamie's just a great kid, and she adds she's a 100% just natural leader, and she also works at it, and she very much so, that's why I named them captains, and they clearly are our team leaders. I think the concern for me as a coach, though, is when they're not in the game, who's our leader? Because it's great that they can be leaders at practice or on the bench or off the court or things of that nature, but when they're not physically one of the 5 in the game, who's the leadership fall to? And that's what we've been trying to develop. Maybe not ready to be captains or anything like that in our sophomores, but just that you can be a leader out in the court if Jamie and Sam aren't in the game, because it's hard to lead from the bench when you're not out there. So that's what we've been working on. We actually have a leadership group that meets once a week, and we go over different exercises about leadership and trying to bring them along in that area, because I wanted to be, as a coach, proactive with that, not just sit back and say we need leader. I think so many coaches do that. You get aggravated with your team and you're like, we have no leadership, but what are you doing to help them learn about it? So we're trying to do that with. We have about 6 in this leadership group. 2, Jamie and Sam are part of it, and then 4 sophomores. And as I say to them every Wednesday when we meet, you're not ready to be a captain, but hopefully you're learning every week to kind of, groom yourself to be some kind of leader out there.
It's a process. You don't just step in.
Exactly.
You've got 10 new players. Can you talk a little bit about them? The thing that struck me about your new players is that you've got great size across the board with your new people, for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. I'm size inside, I wish was a little bit better. I think our better players are not the ones that are 6 foot. Shannon's, barely 5'11". Joe Rotrovsky is barely 5'10", 5'11", and those are probably some of our better inside players. But what I do like is our guard situation. We've got some really lanky 5'9", and that's where I think we have some advantage. So can you make up for maybe not being as big inside if you have some length on the perimeter? Yeah, by ball pressure, doing some different things. So yeah, I was very pleased with our recruiting class and gaining some size with I know Brianna Leonard, Megan Cardarelli. They both came from really good programs, as well as, like I said, their size. They're very lanky, athletic, 5'9". Even Victoria Full as a point guard, she's 5'8". So you have some kids that have a little bigger size for us. So it's just bringing them along, getting them comfortable playing, at the college level, and I feel like every week they're getting better. So yeah, so I'm pretty pleased with that.
Last question: the Little East poll hasn't come out yet, but where do you stand in the conference, you think?
I don't know. I mean, I voted us where I thought. I guess the others would probably kind of vote us, but I mean, even when the years we got voted first, I mean, it's something you sell to recruits, I guess. But I would always remind the team it's probably worth about as much as the paper it was printed on. I look at our men's team, weren't they voted 5th last year, and they went to the Sweet 16. So I don't know that it's worth too much, something to talk about, I guess. But I honestly want the kids to have the same goals that the program, having such a strong tradition, has always had. And that's to compete in the Little East and to compete to, for a championship and do the best we can and be the best team we can be. And do I think we'll be a different team second semester than first semester? Absolutely. I mean, we're definitely going to get better. And our schedule is very challenging, and I wasn't going to just change it because I've had situations where that's happened to us, and I feel like, that doesn't help the program get back to where we want to be by changing who we're playing. And, Amherst is still on there, Emmanuel's still on there. I think our tip-off tournament with Conn College in there, it's a strong tournament. They had a good year last year. And then, we're playing Bowdoin again on conference, and then obviously the conference schools. So, I think our schedule's very challenging, but I wasn't going to totally redo it based on we were going to have a young team. I think it's just going to help them grow to be challenged and pushed, and playing some of the top teams in New England is going to be beneficial for us, especially when I know we have 2 conference games the first semester, but I think especially when we get into that January, February conference schedule where that's 90% of our games. So hopefully it's going to help us be a better team.
So Eastern Connecticut women's basketball opens up on November 17th in the Eastern Connecticut tip-off tournament. Denise, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you so much.